Marriage is supposed to be a union of hearts, but in the wrong hands, it becomes a union of bank accounts. What began as a fairy tale romance in the mountains of Medellin turned into a legal nightmare that cost me $80,000, my freedom, and nearly my sanity. I was 54, freshly retired from IT in Florida, with a decent nest egg and dreams of a new life in South America. Then I met Gabriela, a beautiful Colombian lawyer who would teach me more about love, law, and loss than I ever wanted to learn. It started innocently enough. After months of casual browsing on Colombian Cupid, I met Gabriela. She wasn't like the others who immediately asked for phone cards or money transfers. She was 33, a practicing lawyer in Medellin with sharp intelligence that showed in every conversation. We talked for hours, every night via WhatsApp video calls. Politics, literature, travel dreams, philosophy, conversations that went deeper than anything I'd had in years. She spoke perfect English and challenged my thinking in ways that excited me. When I finally boarded that Avianca flight to Medellin, my heart was racing like I was 25 again. The city hit me like a warm embrace. December in Medellin means eternal spring. 75 degrees, clear skies, and those incredible green mountains rising like cathedral walls around the valley. Gabriela picked me up at the airport in her small Honda. By the time we reached El Poblado, I knew I was in trouble. The good kind, I thought. Those first 2 months were everything you'd imagine when you picture falling in love in a foreign country. Gabriela showed me her Medellin, not the tourist version, but the real city. We'd start mornings with Café Tinto at local markets, spend afternoons exploring museums, and evenings dancing salsa at places where I was often the only gringo. She introduced me to her family, a warm, boisterous group that welcomed me with typical Colombian hospitality. Her mother, Doña Mercedes, insisted on cooking enormous Sunday meals where the entire extended family would gather. 2 months in, standing on the balcony of her apartment overlooking the Medellin skyline at sunset, I asked her to marry me. The words came out before I'd even planned them. When she said yes without hesitation, I thought I'd found my Colombian dream. Our wedding was scheduled for the following month, a simple civil ceremony at a notary office in El Poblado. The morning of our wedding, the notary explained our options in rapid-fire Spanish that Gabriela had to translate. She says we can sign a capitulación matrimonial, Gabriela explained, or we automatically enter the sociedad conyugal. I asked what the difference was. The capitulation is like a prenuptial agreement, Gabriela translated. It keeps our assets separate. The sociedad conyugal means we share everything. What's mine becomes ours, what's yours becomes ours. In that moment, signing a prenuptial agreement felt cold and unromantic. We were building a life together. Sharing everything seemed like what marriage should be. Let's do the sociedad conyugal, I said. We're in this together, right? If I could go back and shake that naive version of myself, I would. The honeymoon period was blissful. Gabriela suggested we find a place together, and she found a beautiful modern condo in Poblado with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the valley. The asking price was $120,000 with $40,000 down. I wired the money from my U.S. account without a second thought. Under Colombian law, since we were married under the sociedad conyugal, the property automatically went into both our names. A few months later, we bought a Toyota SUV for $18,000. Again, it went into both our names under our marital regime. What I didn't understand then was that I wasn't just buying assets, I was building a legal fortress around myself with someone else holding the keys. Colombian culture places enormous importance on family, and I quickly became the family's unofficial bank. It started small. Her cousin needed university tuition, her mother's house needed repairs, her brother's car broke down. Gabriela always presented these requests logically. It's an investment in our family. The requests became more frequent. I started to feel less like a family member and more like an ATM with legs. 6 months after our wedding, things started changing. Gabriella's work schedule became erratic. She'd leave early for client meetings and come home after midnight. Her phone was now always face down, and when it buzzed, she'd glance at it quickly and put it away. The warmth in our conversations started disappearing. She seemed distracted, always having somewhere else to be. 8 months after our wedding, I sat Gabriella down and told her I wasn't happy. The constant family financial requests, her mysterious schedule, the growing distance between us. Something had to change. Maybe we need some time apart, I suggested. That's when my wife, the lawyer, showed me exactly what I'd signed up for. Time apart? She repeated, her voice taking on a tone I'd never heard before. Let me explain something to you about Colombian law, mi amor. She proceeded to give me a legal education I'll never forget. Under the sociedad, conyugal, every asset we'd acquired during our marriage was legally half hers, regardless of who had paid for it. But the real trap was my visa. It was tied directly to our marriage. If we divorced or separated, my legal status in Colombia would disappear immediately. So, you see, she concluded with a cold smile, you can't just leave. You have too much to lose. What happened next still gives me nightmares. Our conversations became increasingly hostile. Gabriella wielded Colombian law like a weapon, explaining how easy it would be to file domestic violence charges, even false ones. The judges here don't like gringos who come to take advantage of our women, she told me. They'll believe me, not you. She was right, and we both knew it. After a week of sleepless nights, I called Pedro, a lawyer an American friend had recommended. His office was in downtown Medellin, in one of those colonial buildings with thick walls that made you feel like you were in a confessional. Pedro, a soft-spoken man in his 60s, listened to my story without judgment. When I finished, he leaned back in his leather chair and sighed. This is not uncommon, he said. Many foreigners don't understand what they're signing. He explained my options, and they were all bad. I could fight the divorce in Colombian courts, which could take years and cost a fortune. I could try to prove the assets were mine alone, but under the sociedad conyugal, the law was clear. Or I could walk away quietly and start over. It will cost you everything you've invested here, Pedro warned, but you'll keep your freedom and your sanity. 3 weeks later, I made my choice. On a rainy Thursday morning while Gabriella was supposedly at court, I packed a single suitcase and called a taxi to the airport. I left the keys to the condo and car on the kitchen counter, along with a letter explaining that I was returning to the United States. By the time she returned home that evening, I was already at 30,000 feet, watching Colombia disappear beneath the clouds. It's been 3 years since I left Medellin. The final accounting was brutal. $40,000 for the condo down payment, $18,000 for the car, approximately $15,000 in family loans, $3,000 in legal fees, and countless smaller expenses. Over $80,000 total. But I gained something invaluable, a hard education about international marriage and legal systems. If you're considering marriage abroad, here's what I wish I'd known. Research the legal system first. In Colombia, the sociedad conyugal makes everything community property unless you specifically opt out. Never tie your legal residency to your relationship. Understand the cultural context. Supporting extended family financially is normal in Colombian culture. Trust your instincts when behavior changes dramatically after marriage. Have an exit strategy and keep some assets in your home country. Would I do it all again? I don't know. The heartbreak was real, but so was the love, at least at the beginning. Colombia is an incredible country with warm, wonderful people. My experience doesn't represent all Colombian women, but I would do it differently. I'd keep my finances separate, maintain my U.S. residency, and take time to truly understand the legal landscape before making life-changing commitments. Love is beautiful, but it's not a legal strategy, and dreams of paradise can become expensive lessons if you're not careful. Somewhere in that green valley, there's a condo with an amazing view that legally belongs half to me, but practically belongs entirely to my ex-wife. It's an $80,000 reminder that sometimes the most expensive education is the kind you get when you think you're too smart to need it. If this story helped you avoid a similar situation, smash that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more real stories from gringos navigating Latin America, the good, the bad, and the expensive. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.